Namaste. Hello everyone. We are going to start a new chapter from economics. That is second chapter from economics. Sectors of Indian economy. Sectors of we are Indian going to discuss about what are the sectors which are the backbone for our Indian economy. So that we are going to learn today, and along with the PPT I would like to share few things with you. Yeah, now sectors of Indian economy we are going to start. See, what are economic activities, how they are classified into groups using the criterion. These groups are known as sectors of economy. Now you see in the visuals how many people around us are engaged in different activities to earn their livelihood. Some may be producing goods while others may be delivering services. Like you see in the first slide, there is a shop where people are trying to buy things, and the shopkeeper is selling the goods, and down you see a farmer. He is doing some work in his fields, and then the next slide you find a labor, that is coolie, who is carrying load of goods on his head and walking. And then to the right you see civil laborers who are doing some work near a newly construction going building. And then above that a postman delivering the letters. So all these are the different types of people who are engaged in different activities to earn their livelihood. Some may be producing goods. So here who is producing? The farmer is producing, while others are doing their services. So now the sectors are classified on the basis of their nature of the activities. So mainly we can take as sectors of Indian economy. The first one is primary, second one is secondary, third one is tertiary. So these classification, it is taken for the Indian economic sectors. So Indian economy can be classified into various sectors on the basis of majorly what is the basis? The basis of ownership, working conditions of the workers, and the nature of the activity being performed. So what is the activity they are doing? Which type of work they are doing? On that basis only it will be taken up. On the basis of nature of activity, Indian economy can be classified into primary, secondary and tertiary sectors. On the basis of working conditions, economy can be classified into organized and unorganized sectors. So, and the next one is on the basis of ownership, Indian economy can be classified into public and private sectors. So here mainly we have seen that how they are differentiated. Okay, one is basis of ownership, then basis of nature of activity, basis of working conditions, again basis of ownership, where it is classified again into two types, that is public and private sectors. So first we shall go with the primary sector. The economic activities which are connected with the extraction and production of natural resources, for example agriculture, fishing, mining, etc. fall under primary sector. So here, which are connected with the extraction and production of natural resources. Means what do we say? All the products for which we are depending on the natural resources, those come under primary sector. Agriculture, we are depending on the soil, we are depending on the climate, we are depending on the water and all these things. So that's why agriculture comes under primary sector. Fishing also, as per the water availability in the rivers or tanks or whatever. Then mining, whatever we are extracting from the ground, that is a natural resource. That's why all these come under primary sector. Even you see here a man milking a cow. So this is again this also comes under primary sector, because this is also a natural resource only. Livestock, we call it as natural resource. So here once again you see so many pictures. The primary sector, where economic activity is centered from extraction of raw materials from Mother Earth, be it agriculture, forestry, fishing, mining or quarrying. Quarrying means cutting of stones or taking out, extracting any minerals from the ground. It is called quarrying. In India, agriculture is the biggest example of the primary sector. As earlier we studied in geography that more than 70% or 70 to 80% people are depending on the agriculture sector in our country. So here, however, forestry and fishing can also be cited as other examples of this particular primary sector. This sector is also known as agricultural and related sector. Now, secondary sector, the economic activities which are related to manufacturing process. For example, manufacturing of steel falls under secondary sector. This is taking the raw material and manufacturing something, comes under secondary sector. When the main activity involves manufacturing, then it is the secondary sector. All industrial production where physical goods are produced come under the secondary sector. In secondary sectors of the national economy, natural ingredients are used to create products and services that are consequently used for consumption. Here, natural ingredients means it's nothing but raw material which are brought from, maybe mostly almost all the raw material will be from the primary sector only. So all these are used to manufacture the goods which are used for our own consumption. This sector can be regarded as one of that adds value to the products and services on offer. On offer here, what does it mean? As per our demand, as per our requirement, the value of the products and services will increase. When the demand increases, the production has to be increased because there is a lot of need in the society. The major examples of these sectors, manufacturing or these sectors, secondary sector, are manufacturing. So this sector is also called as industrial sector. Now coming to the third one, the economic activity that are mostly based on providing services to the society like transportation, banking, insurance, etc. falls under tertiary sector. See here, major whatever services which we are taking for ourselves or for our community or our society, what are those majorly? We are going, wherever we go, we want to transportation. So transportation is giving service to us. And then banking, because all the transactions we are doing through banks, insurance, for everything we need insurance nowadays, all come under tertiary sectors, and this is also called as service sector, because all these organizations are giving service to us or to the society. When the activity involves providing intangible goods like services, then this is a part of the tertiary sector. Financial services, management consultancy, telephony, and IT are good examples of service sector. So today IT sector is one of the largest sector. It is becoming largest sector in the world. IT means information technology. Like the secondary sector, it also provides value addition for the product. This sector is also known as service sector. See, it is giving a support to the manufacturing or industrial sector or even primary sector also. How it is giving it is like a backbone for the secondary sector. Why? Because it is giving a value addition for the product. For example, for any product, now example, when you see in this slide, you see the ladies drawing cash from the ATM machine. If any problems comes, if they are not able to withdraw money, or there was no receipt generated, or they were not able to withdraw cash, so what they will do? They have to call to the bank people. So bank customer care people, they will call, and then the problem will be solved through the customer care. What is that customer care? It is nothing but it is the service sector of the bank, related to the bank. Like this, for every product today, whatever we are buying, you see either a toll-free number or a customer care number, where you have any doubts, you can clarify, or you can resume your work by sorting out or solving the problems related to the product. So that will be given, that services are given through this service sector, that is the tertiary sector. So now, as we discussed, as I told you, all the three sectors are interdependent to each other, because see, primary sector is producing goods, it is becoming raw material for the secondary goods, for the manufacturing, for the secondary sector, and then the tertiary sector is giving the services for both the sectors. So all the three are dependent on each other. So how is this interdependency of sectors? Let us go with a small example of a cool drink. To understand this interdependency, let us take an example of a cool drink. A cold drink contains water, sugar, and artificial flavor. Suppose if there is no sugarcane production, that is from the primary sector, then they cannot produce sugar, which will become difficult and costly for the cool drink manufacturer. He cannot manufacture sugar, right? So he has to depend on the sugar factory, as then sugar becomes his raw material. Whereas in a sugar factory, he has to depend on the sugar cane, which is a primary sector. So that primary sector material is the raw material for the sugar factory. So he has to depend on the sugar cane. So now to transport sugar cane to sugar mills and sugar to the cold drink plant needs the service of a transporter. So transportation is needed. So again, this is the tertiary sector, that is the service sector. A person or system of persons are required to maintain and monitor all these movements of goods from farm to factory, factory to shop in different locations. That is where role of administrative staff comes. Let us go back to the farmer. He also needs fertilizers and seeds, which is processed in some factory and which will be delivered to his doorstep by some means of transportation. To top it all, at every step of these activities, we require the proper monetary and banking system. So all the money transaction has to go through bank. So again, it's a tertiary sector. So in a nutshell, these describe how interrelated all sectors of an economy are. Now, sugarcane growing in primary sector, what we discussed. Transporting sugarcane to the factory. Then manufacturing of sugar and drink secondary. Then final product is your cold drink. Evolution of an economy from primary sector based to tertiary sector. So how it is evolving? During early civilization, all economic activity was in primary sector. When the food production became surplus, people's need for other products increased. What happened? Primary sector, when they started growing lot of agricultural products, then it became surplus. So people's need for other products increased. This led to the development of secondary sector. The growth of secondary sector spread its influence during Industrial Revolution in 19th century. So they started going for the comfort level, comfort zone, where they want to improve their comforts. That's why the secondary sector also spread its influence, mostly in the 19th century. After growth of economic activity, a support system was the need to facilitate the industrial activity, because once the finished product or the final goods are ready in the factory, they have to be transported to the market, then they have to be sold to the retailers or the wholesalers. So for all these, a system is needed, people are needed, workforce is needed. For all these, the service is needed. So that's why to facilitate this industrial activity, certain these sectors like transport and finance play an important role in supporting the industrial activity. Moreover, more shops were needed to provide goods in people's neighborhood. Ultimately, other services like tuition, administrative support developed. So a lot of service sector developed. Then we are going to know what is GDP. GDP means gross domestic product. Gross domestic product. The value of final goods and services produced in each sector during a particular year provides the total production of the sector for that year, and the sum of production in the three sectors give the gross domestic product of a country. GDP shows how big the economy of a country is. So our economy is calculated on the basis of the GDP. So how GDP is calculated? It is the value of the final goods and services produced in each sector during year, and with this total production and then sum of production in these three sectors, that is primary, secondary and tertiary. We have to add, sum of means adding all the three sectors, then you will get the GDP. The same thing. So here again, once again we will repeat. The value of final goods and services produced in each sector during a particular year provides the total production of the sector for that year, and Sum of production in three sectors gives the GDP of a country. It is the value of all final goods and services produced within the country during a particular year. It shows. Then now comparing three sectors between the year 1973 and 2003. See, these pictures are even in your textbooks. You need to go through what was the growth. See, in the year 1973, how less was the GDP. That did not cross even 30,000 rupees crores. Now, in the year 2003, it is 2,10,000 crores. That is how much tertiary sector has increased. That is the blue color. Yellow color also, and primary sector also reduced. Share of the sectors. See, tertiary sector share is always more. Secondary and primary also is more than the secondary in the year 2003. Share of sectors in employment. Still in our country, more people are depending on the primary sector only. That's why its percentage is almost above 60%. Remaining is tertiary and the secondary sector. So classification on the basis of ownership. Now we have to classify the sectors of economy on the basis of ownership. Who is the owner? So there are two types. One is public, one is private. So we shall learn what are those. What is public sector? Public sector is the government owns most of the assets and provides all the services. Whatever is owned by the government and most of the assets of a company or a sector which provides all the services come under public sector. Here example, in the banking, Reserve Bank of India, and in the airlines, Air India, which is owned by the Indian government, Civil Aviation Department. So that's why these are the public sectors. Private sectors. Ownership of assets and delivery of services is in the hands of private individuals or companies. Private individuals or companies. So example, Tata and Vodafone. You know Tata, they have vast sector. It is a very large private sector which owns many like automobile, steel, iron and steel, then automobiles, then various consultancy services like in information technology areas, and many other goods they are supplying, and even there are many consumable goods, cosmetics, all these are owned by Tata Group. Like that there are many more groups. Now Vodafone, it is giving tele services to us. Then classification on the basis of employment. What are the basis? Sectors of employment. Sectors of economy is divided into organized and unorganized. Now what is organized? People have assured work and terms of employment are regular. For example, we are seeing two pictures here. One is the police force, the other one is a banking sector where their work is organized. They have regular holidays, they have paid leaves, and they have all the many this one, what do we call? They have many perks and other things given by the government. Unorganized sector, it consists of small and scattered which are not in the control of the government. It has low pay and unsecured jobs. They have to work every day. They do not have any holidays, and their work is scattered. They don't have any fixed job or permanent job, and the work where they are working, that is not under the control of the government. So their jobs are very much unsecured, and pay also is very low, and they do not get any benefits of the government. So India is workforce organized in unorganized and organized. You will see very clear picture in your textbook. What is unemployment? Before going to this topic, unemployment, once again I would like to repeat the differences of organized and unorganized sector. In an organized sector means it is under the control of government systems or government rules. They have rules and regulations. In organized sector, they have holidays. They can get paid for the overtime, additional time if they work, and they have facilities like provident fund, or they have sick leaves and other things, and their employment is secured. Nobody can remove them, or nobody can say you go, we don't have any work, like that. So their income also is secured, and their income will be more. And whereas if you compare with unorganized, it is with the private ownership or individuals, so they do not have any secured job. So whenever there is no job, the employer can send them out. They can send them out, and they do not have any benefits like holiday or paid leaves or overtime payments and all. They cannot get all those things. So unorganized sector, that's why we call it as unorganized sector. So now coming to next part is unemployment. When a person is willing to work at the prevailing wage rate but fails to get a job, it is called unemployment. So when somebody is willing to work but they are not getting any work, if they fail to get a job, it is called unemployment. What are the types of unemployment? In 9th class also you studied some of the things of unemployment. What are those unemployment? First one is seasonal unemployment, disguised unemployment, structural unemployment, cyclical, frictional. So these type of unemployment, that is 5 types of unemployment. So here you see all the variations. The unemployment which generates due to variation in seasons is called seasonal unemployment. For example, agricultural laborer. So only during the monsoon time or sowing of seeds or harvesting, many people engage laborers. At that time people get unemployment. People get employment. Remaining time they are unemployed because they don't have any work. So that's why it is called as seasonal unemployment. Even workers of a sugar factory runs only for 5 to 6 months in a year. So those workers working there, they are unemployed for the remaining 6 months. So they need some other employment again. That's why they come under seasonal unemployment. When more people are working than required, it is called disguised unemployment. See, this is a very dangerous kind of unemployment. Disguised. Suppose a farmer is having a family of 7 to 8 members and he owns only 2 acres of land. All the 8 people say, what is their occupation? Means they say, I am a farmer, I do farming. But actually in that small piece of land of 2 acres, 8 people are not needed to work there. Even though many people work there, or only 3 people or 4 people work, the production will be one and the same. and the time period also will be the one and the same. So where there is a requirement of only 4 people, there 8 people are there. So in that actually 4 people are required, means the other 4 are unemployed. But they feel that they are employed. So that's why it is called as disguised unemployment. So they need to go for some other occupation or some other work. Then when the economy fails to generate enough jobs, it is called as structural unemployment. When the economy fails to generate, they cannot generate enough jobs, then it is called structural unemployment. The planning of the government, if it is not proper and the economy is coming down, then they cannot generate much jobs as required, then it is called structural unemployment. See, word structure itself will explain us. Then the next one, unemployment that is created because of depression in an economy, it is called cyclical unemployment. The unemployment that is created because of depression in an economy. See, now present situation that is we are facing since last 3 to 4 months because of this pandemic COVID-19, where we are seeing the lockdowns all over the world, and then by which all the economy has come down of almost all the countries of the world, and now you see a lot of economic depression, and then many people will become jobless because there is no work. So many people will come under cyclical unemployment. So this we are going to see in the coming few days. When unemployment happens because of transferring from one job to another, the period between changing the job is called frictional unemployment. Frictional unemployment. If anyone is transferring from one job to another, the period of the gap which comes during the change of the job, that is called frictional unemployment. Now, so finally, about this sectors of Indian economy, there are 3 major things. That is, you need to know what is primary sector, what is secondary sector, what is the tertiary sector. Where in a simple way, it's very easy to understand. All the natural resources, whatever we are getting, that comes under primary sector, and using these resources, again manufacturing some finished goods in the factories or industries, this comes under the secondary sector. That is, the finished product will be ready in this by taking raw material. It may be from the primary sector or from the secondary itself. Like here, when we study in the industries chapter, we say basic industries and the major industries. A smaller raw material is manufactured in the basic industries, and then, for example, when we talk about the tire companies, when they are manufacturing tires, so they are depending on the rubber. Rubber also has to come in the form of latex and the sheets. So first the farmer has to cut the rubber trees, make it a pulp, then he has to bring to a factory where they are compressed and they are made into latex sheets. Then that latex has to come to the tire factory, or the rubber sheets have to come to the tire factory, then they will manufacture or give the required shapes. So that becomes in the secondary sector. Finally, the third, tertiary sector. This is the major requirement to bring all the primary as well as the secondary sector goods It has to be transported, it has to come to the market, and it has to go to the consumer through various channels. So transportation is required, and for all this transaction of the money that has to go on, services have to be given. See, even we can say hospitals, schools, teachers, all these come under service sector, because a teacher is teaching and then teaching through a school, and the school is paying salary, right? Students are, parents are paying the fee to the school. The school in turn with that money is paying salaries to the teacher. Why they are paying? Because teacher is sharing his knowledge to the students. So for the service what the teacher is giving, salary, in the name of salary, they are paid. So in this way, various places, wherever we buy, wherever we go, wherever whatever services we are taking, so we are paying for it. So all these come under tertiary sector. And then the major important topics in this chapter are these three only. That is, these three sectors you have to learn, and then organized and unorganized sectors, proper differentiation you need to learn, and it is very very clearly given in your textbooks where you need to study them. And then sectors also, how they are subdivided in the manufacturing areas, like private sectors and the public sectors, with proper examples. And even the question, for example, organized and unorganized, in during board exams, even you get questions in such a way that case study questions you will get, where you are given an example of a bank employee and one regular laborer or working in any of the private shops or somewhere. So comparing both of them, you need to differentiate the organized and unorganized sectors. So I hope you understood. And for every chapter, maximum I am trying to make you to show slide shows with more information, by which you need to study well and you need to compare with your textbook. And unless you read your textbook, you cannot learn faster, and that is the major uh, requirement for your success in your examinations. So kindly please follow and read the textbook first, and then you can go for the further assignments or uh, question answers or study material, etc. So please read the textbook. Thank you.